All right, folks, buckle up. We're diving deep today into Alan Watts.
Oh yeah, he's always a wild ride.
You sent in excerpts from Just So, and we're exploring letting go of attachment. Watts has a way of turning Western thinking upside down, and I think this is going to be fascinating.
Absolutely. What jumps out at me is how Watts connects this letting go to the very core of Western thought, like way back to Democritus. And his atomic theory, everything's made up of these tiny separate particles, right?
Yeah, back to high school science class. But how does that connect to letting go? Seems like a big leap.
Well, Watts argues that this atomic viewpoint, this emphasis on separateness, it's seeped into how we think. Like we're obsessed with the pieces but miss the big picture, how it's all connected.
So we're staring at atoms and forgetting we're part of a giant universe. Okay, I see where he's going.
Exactly. And the separateness, Watts says, it's not just physics. It's how we see ourselves, the world, even God.
He even talks about those Church of England prayers, like God was just another authority figure backing up the king, some kind of cosmic kingmaker.
Right. It shows how our culture and history shape even our basic beliefs. This idea of a universe with external laws, whether it's Hammurabi's Code or divine commandments, it just reinforces this feeling of being separate, controlled by stuff outside ourselves.
Which makes letting go even harder, right?
hmm
If you constantly feel like some external force is in control. King, God, or the laws of physics.
Exactly. Watts contrasts this Western view with a more Eastern perspective. The universe as one big interconnected event. He uses this awesome image, a dewdrop reflecting the entire universe, showing how everything is woven together, part of one big tapestry.
Okay, that image is powerful. So how does interconnectedness relate back to...
If we really get this interconnectedness, it changes our relationship to letting go. Clinging to a rigid self, our desires, our attachments, it starts to look like an illusion.
Because we're not these isolated beings struggling against the universe.
Right. Watts even challenges the idea of a fixed self.
Mm.
Our identities shift depending on who we're with. Family, friends, work, we're different people.
So instead of clinging to one solid me, it's more about accepting we're always changing, adapting.
That's it. Watts says this fluidity, this constant becoming, is more freeing than a fixed identity. Opens us up to more freedom, adaptability.
It's like go with the flow, but on a way deeper level.
Yeah.
The thing I found really interesting is Watts sees technology as part of this natural evolution towards integration. Wouldn't think a philosopher talking about letting go would be pro-technology, right?
He gets into this concept of synergy, building on Buckminster Fuller's ideas. Complex systems, like our interconnected world, have an intelligence that's bigger than just the sum of the parts.
So tech can feel overwhelming, but it's actually pushing us towards global unity, like Fuller's one world town.
Right. Watts sees tech as a natural extension of what humans do, even if it's messy and chaotic sometimes. And in a way, this interconnectedness, even if tech-driven, makes even more relevant.
Because now we're hyper-aware of being part of this vast system.
Exactly. But that awareness can be a lot to handle. Information overload, always connected. It's easy to get lost in the noise. You know, it's funny how Watts connects this letting go idea to something as basic as eating. He says we're so obsessed with nutrition and healthy choices, we've forgotten to just enjoy a meal.
Oh, totally. I catch myself overthinking food labels all the time.
Yeah.
It's like we're so worried about what's good that we miss the simple pleasure of eating.
And that's classic clinging to control, even with food. It robs us of joy. Watts would say we're too busy manipulating the experience, making it perfect, that we forget to actually taste it.
He calls it a fear of pleasure, which sounds kind of strange, but I get it. Like we're almost scared to let go and really enjoy things.
And he says this fear, it's not just food, it's in our work, relationships, even spirituality.
So it's deeper than just stuff. It's this need to control everything, shape it to our expectations.
Exactly. And that's where Buldunst is crucial. True happiness doesn't come from clinging, but from surrendering to the flow, ups and downs and all.
Okay, I get that, but it's easier said than done,
Yeah.
right? How do we actually let go of that control, especially when things feel messy?
Watts knows it's a process, a practice. He even tells this Zen story about a master and a student. The student's complaining about the heat.
Let me guess, the master says, go where it's neither hot nor cold.
You got it. And the student's like, where is that? And the master says, in summer we sweat. In winter, we shiver.
So it's about accepting what is, being present, not resisting. It's like there is no virtue like necessity.
Bingo. It's about finding stillness inside, even when things are tough or changing. Watts says that's where the magic is. When we surrender to the flow, we connect more deeply to everything, including ourselves.
But here's what I'm stuck on. Doesn't letting go mean becoming passive? Like giving up on goals and dreams?
That's a common misunderstanding. Watts is clear that letting go isn't about ditching your passions, it's about the mindset you bring to them.
So not driven by fear or achievement, but acting from love, joy, just wanting to share your gifts.
Exactly. Remember that story about the goose in the bottle?
Oh yeah, the one where the goose gets too big and the guy doesn't want to break the bottle or hurt the goose. How does he get it out?
Trick question. It's a Zen koan, meant to shake up how we think. The answer is the goose was never in the bottle.
It's like saying we trap ourselves with limitations. We focus on the problem so much we miss the simple solution.
That's Watt's brilliance in just so. Stories, humor, these insights that make you question everything. He wants us to let go of the rigid stuff that keeps us stuck.
It's like he's saying, play with the paradox, find the humor. Remember, things aren't always so serious.
That's it, and it reminds us this isn't about becoming an emotionless robot. It's finding that balance between trying and surrendering, control and letting go.
Which is probably a lifelong thing, right? No switch, we just flip and become masters of letting go.
Absolutely. It's a journey. Watts gives us a map, principles to navigate life's complexities.
And a lot comes back to that perspective shift. We're not separate from the universe. Our self is fluid. Even tech is part of this big unfolding.
That's the foundation. Then it's about detaching from stuff, outcomes, and ultimately our rigid identities. Embracing show.
And as we do that, let go of those attachments, we open up to a whole new awareness, deeper connection to the universe and ourselves.
Powerful stuff, especially in our crazy, interconnected world. Watts shows us a way to find peace amidst chaos, joy in impermanence, and freedom from our own minds.
He doesn't sugarcoat it, though. Watts admits letting go, this can be tough, even scary. It's facing the unknown, giving up control, a big leap of faith.
He talks about resisting pleasure, holding back from fully experiencing life out of fear or feeling unworthy.
Like we build walls around our hearts to avoid pain, but end up shutting out joy and connection, too.
He uses the image of a clenched fist. Holding on too tight, we can't receive anything new. Gotta open up, relax the grip to let something else in.
So letting go is like trust, being vulnerable and open to what comes.
And what's cool about Watts is he doesn't make it rigid rules. He's all about playfulness, humor, approaching life with lightness and wonder.
It's not becoming some detached hermit. It's about engaging with life fully, but with a different awareness.
He even says, approach your spiritual stuff, rituals, daily routines with that same playfulness. Let go of control and just be surprised, delighted by life's mysteries.
It's radical, and I see how transformative it could be. But I'm still stuck on impermanence.
Yeah.
If everything's changing, nothing lasts, what's the point of holding on to anything?
That's deep, and Watts tackles it head on in Just So. He talks about life and death cycles, how the universe constantly renews itself.
Like he's saying, impermanence isn't something to fear, it's the source of creativity and beauty.
It's through that constant birth, death, rebirth cycle that the universe expresses itself.
And by embracing that, accepting impermanence, we find deeper peace and freedom.
That's the paradox he's pointing to. Letting go is how we truly find ourselves.
Whoa, mind officially blown. I need a minute to process all this.
I hear you. Watt's ideas are challenging, but also super liberating. And he'd probably say, no rush, no need to grasp it all at once.
It's a journey unfolding over time.
Exactly. And sometimes the biggest insights hit us when we least expect it.
So on that note, let's take a breath and then dive into the last part of this deep dive.
Yeah.
I'm curious how Watts ties it all together and what final thoughts he leaves us with. All right, so let's try to wrap our heads around this whole impermanence thing. It's a tough one, gotta admit.
Yeah, it kind of flips our Western thinking on its head. We usually crave stability, things lasting, holding on tight.
But Watts is saying that clinging, that attachment, is actually what causes a lot of our suffering.
He's making a case for embracing impermanence as like the core of life. Remember that dewdrop image reflecting the whole universe? It's all in flux, always changing like patterns in a river.
So instead of fighting the current, trying to grab onto things that'll change anyway, we find freedom by letting go. But if everything's impermanent, what does holding on even mean?
That's the big question Watts throws at us. He wants us to think about attachment, the illusion of control, and how much freedom comes from surrendering to the change that's always happening.
It's like those sand mandalas, the ones Tibetan monks make. They spend weeks on these super intricate designs and then just sweep them away.
Powerful symbol of impermanence right there. But there's beauty and meaning in the doing. The monks aren't attached to the final product. They're just present, moment by moment, pouring their creativity in, knowing it'll fade.
That's a pretty amazing way to live, but how do we bring that wisdom into everyday life?
Watts is big on mindfulness, being fully here now, no dwelling on the past or stressing about the future.
So enjoying simple things like that first coffee sip, the sun on your skin.
Exactly. Noticing the beauty in everyday stuff, those fleeting moments that make up a life.
But what about goals, ambitions? If we embrace impermanence, do we just give up on everything, drift aimlessly?
Not at all. Watts is clear. Letting go isn't abandoning your passions, becoming passive. It's about how you approach them.
So not driven by fear or needing to achieve, but acting from joy, creativity, just wanting to share your gifts with the world.
You got it. And when you come from that place, the outcome matters less than the journey. You find satisfaction in the doing, the creating, connecting, contributing.
It's like we release expectations and let something bigger guide us.
Watts would call that tapping into the unborn mind, that intuitive, creative source that's beyond the ego's limits.
So it isn't about being a detached hermit, but engaging with life more fully, more honestly.
Exactly. Finding that sweet spot between effort and surrender, control, and letting go. It's a practice, a lifelong exploration of yourself and the world.
This conversation has really shifted things for me. I'm seeing the world differently now, appreciating the beauty, even in how it's always changing.
That's the thing about Watts. He makes you question what you think you know. Step outside your comfort zone. Embrace a wider way of being.
He doesn't give easy answers, more like invitations to explore, experiment, find your own way to.
And that's what makes it so cool. It's constantly unfolding, letting go of what doesn't work anymore, opening up to what's possible.
Well, folks, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive into Alan Watts, and honestly, feels like we just dipped our toes in.
Yeah, his work is deep, worth coming back to, reading again, letting those ideas sink in over time.
So our challenge to you is this. Keep exploring, keep questioning, keep letting go. Figure out what deep means for you. Until next time, fellow deep divers.
Yeah.
Follow the infinite within with Cecilia to explore profound insights on pantheism. Embrace the oneness of existence and unlock the mysteries within you.